Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to another installment in our reviewed and ranked series. This has been quite the fun adventure to embark on, so I hope you're enjoying it as we take a closer and deeper look at each member of the Ultimate Alliance roster. If you are enjoying this series, please let me know what you think in the comments down below, and if you found today's video especially helpful or enjoyable, feel free to leave the video a like. And while you're down there, don't forget to subscribe as I do bring videos to you on a daily basis. As you've seen by the title, today we will be focusing on Captain America. And real quick, as we jump into the abilities of Captain America, how he works, and the like, I would like to let you know that I do plan on grinding up the remainder of the cast in a more of a live stream format, or at least portions of that. So if you check in the description of the video, you'll find a link to my Twitch channel where you should see that I do live streams on Fridays or Saturdays, depending on my availability, to kind of work through the characters that we're needing to focus on for this series. But that's enough introduction out of the way. So let's go ahead and actually talk about Captain America. So the first thing that we need to talk about in regards to Captain America, is we've done with all of the other characters in the cast, is how he does on the team build synergies front. And compared to Black Widow and Black Panther, he does have a much shorter list. He has 5 synergies which he can unlock, the first of which being a vitality-based synergy with the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. He then has a defense-based synergy with the Generations, and this is the first defense-based synergy that we've seen in terms of team building, and that rounds out the cast of synergies in team building that can be acquired to buff different aspects of the teams and the roster. The other 3 synergies that he has are all energy boosting synergies, and those would be the Avengers synergy, the Partners synergy, and the Team Leaders synergy, each of which will boost or increase his energy count by a margin or 2 as we go to continue in making our team a little bit stronger in terms of who you're bringing into the fight. And that's really all we needed to talk about in regards to what Captain America brings to the team. So now let's go ahead and have a look at the different attacks and abilities that he has, starting off with his basic combo. As you'll see here, Captain America's combo entails 4 different hits, the last of which involves a kick that sends the shield flying out in a small yet physics-defying trajectory out in front of the character. And that last hit does decently well at knocking characters back out of the way, provided that they are not a mighty enemy. The heavy attack that he possesses is a much longer range. It's actually got a very incredible range on it in terms of heavy attacks, and one of the best we've seen so far in terms of range, where Cap will throw out his shield in a even more exaggerated physics-defying loop where it will go straight out in front of him, knock down characters that it comes in contact with only on the outbound strike before returning back to the character. And that is something to keep in mind, that it does not have any hit properties as the shield returns to Captain America, even if there are enemies in the way. So don't be surprised if it only hits people on the one direction, as that is its intended mechanic. In terms of traversal, Captain America has a double jump, much like other members of the cast that we've seen, and that helps him in terms of being a little bit more versatile when it comes to navigating the battlefield and any obstacles that you might come in contact with. His aerial attack is a rather strong one. It involves Captain America plunging to the ground with his shield in both hands. This has a circular knockback area that does very well and deals a decent amount of damage as it falls. The unfortunate aspect of that being there aren't really a lot of attributes where you would use this, as most of the aerial attacks that we've looked at or seen can be comboed off of abilities that send the character rising up into the air. And as we see with Cap's abilities here in just a few minutes, he does not have an ability that shoots him up into the air. So despite this being a decently strong aerial attack, you're not going to have as many opportunities to use it as you would with other characters in the roster. And of course, the last item that we need to talk about is the dodge mechanic for Captain America, where he will block initially by cowering a little bit behind his shield, and then rolling in the direction of the input on the stick will allow him to perform a somersault off in the direction of the directional input. And that will finally bring us over to his 4 abilities. And we start those off with the first ability being Shield Dash. Now, Shield Dash is a very efficient ability for Cap, where he will rush forward, dealing damage with his shield as he holds it in front of him. This can be charged up to a certain extent as you press that button when engaging it on its own ability standpoint, though something that is important to note is that any ability that involves a charge will detonate instantly if it is used within a synergy type environment, and where possible you do want to try and use those synergies wherever you can. And fortunately, Shield Dash does have a synergy trait available. It has the attack type melee and the synergy trait charge, which sends Captain America again rushing forward and dealing large amounts of damage to the opponents in the area of that trajectory, as it is a straight dash forward. It's not the greatest in terms of the overall damage output, but it does have a respectable amount at the C damage. It has EP usage of C, which I even feel is a little bit less than what we saw with Black Widow's kit, where it does consume less of his overall meter to use that attack. But in terms of the stagger damage that it can deal, that is where this ability really shines, and it deals heavy and hefty amounts of staggered damage to characters such as bosses and mighty enemies that you may encounter. As you rank this ability up, it will become cheaper to use on the energy point front. It will increase in its overall attack damage, increase in the attack damage to the stagger gauge, and later receive a reduced chance of the attack being interrupted. Moving on to the next ability, we have the Absolute Defense. This is a defensive ability, and not a whole lot of characters on the cast have an ability of this caliber. This involves a defensive stance that will block all incoming damage. I believe it's more specifically related to damage received from the front of the character, and some types of attacks, such as projectiles, can be reflected, not directly back to sender, but repurposed and sent back towards the opposing team. Though in a synergy format, this does have a synergy trait in the term of a safeguard, it does have the capacity of reflecting attacks from some of your teammates as well, so it can provide a little bit more range across the battlefield as you synergize into that area. As you rank this attack up, it will reduce the amount of energy points that it costs to activate this ability. It is terrible on the damage front because the only damage that it can really provide is reflected projectiles, whether that be from the opponents or from your own teammates, so do not intend to rely on this as a damage dealing ability. But in terms of energy point consumption, it actually isn't terrible. It remains fairly consistent with other abilities that Captain America possesses. The third ability that Captain America has is the Shield Strike, and this is one of those abilities that cannot be synergized. It has the unique trait of being the melee attack type, and the fun thing about this ability in particular is as this shield is hurled around the battlefield, it will rebound off of walls and enemies and just kind of reverberate around the arena in which you are fighting a couple of different times. It looks very similar on startup to the heavy attack. In fact, some might even argue that the animations initially look identical, but the Shield Strike does have that added benefit of being able to do other things as it bounces around the battlefield. This has a higher amount of damage up front that it does, which makes it decently well at clearing out hordes of enemies in the grunt category, those who don't have stagger gauges and don't tend to block attacks as frequently. It does decently well on the energy point consumption, but it is not the greatest asset in Captain America's kit when it comes to dealing damage to the stagger bar, as it is a little bit lackluster in that area with a D class ranking. As you level this ability up, it will reduce the amount of energy points needed to activate this attack. It will increase in its overall damage, later increasing the damage done to the stagger gauge, and finally reducing the chance of the attack being interrupted. And that brings us to Captain America's fourth ability, which is a unique ability in its own class. This also does not have an attack type per se, but the synergy trait that it possesses is the launch trait. And you can see that this is activated with a punch that Captain America sends upwards into the air. And that's really all it does in terms of the animation, though it does have a very minor hitbox on the startup of the move, but it's not something that you're going to be using this attack for when it comes to the overall animation and the initial damage output. What this ability is really good for, though, is it will increase attack damage of all team members for a short period of time. And you can see the timer that's been running here. It gives you a full 30 seconds of benefit once the attack has been leveled up to its highest degree. And that is just kind of beneficial because it soups up all of your teammates' attacks in the basic, heavy, aerial, and synergy types. It also will help when detonating your extreme attacks to get just a little bit extra damage added on to the overall output. As you level up this ability, you will see that the energy points needed to activate the attack are reduced, the effectiveness is increased, the duration is increased, and finally the startup on that animation has a reduced chance of being interrupted as that ability starts up. And finally, we have Captain America's extreme attack, and this is an attack that is kind of blink and you'll miss it. It detonates very quickly and is over in less than 3 seconds, but it does a decent amount of damage in a star pattern that is sent out in front of the character and then brings Captain America with that downward falling shield bash right into the middle of that star. So if you're looking for some quick damage, this is an extreme attack for you. So having looked at everything for Captain America, this begs the question, where does he fit in our tier list? Well, he doesn't have the raw damage output that Black Panther does, but he is certainly a more useful character than Black Widow, and she's honestly lucky to be currently fighting herself in the B tier category. So with the better attack combos that he has even on his basic and heavy attacks, as well as his overall utility when it comes to his synergies, especially with the use of his super soldier's ability that soups up the attacks of everyone on the team, Captain America finds himself very securely and solidly in A tier. And that, I feel, is a very fair ranking and positioning for Captain America. But what do you think? Do you agree with my ranking? Do you disagree? Do you think that I glossed over certain aspects of the characters, or is there anything that I may have missed while looking over them? Let me know in the comments down below, and also let me know which characters you're excited to see where they fall into this tier list ranking. But until then, thanks again for watching, and I hope that you have an absolutely fantastic rest of your day.